The new era is here. It is emerging. Let's talk about it. Over the last number of years or so, I've noticed a drastic shift in my own personal buying behavior, but also many people in the networks, communities, and things that I'm in. And this was specifically most obvious to me over the last year and a bit or so, as I was in different communities, both part of them and also supporting in them as well, across 150, 200 clients or so over the last year and a half or so. In this video, I want to share some of those observations, because what I've really witnessed is that it's not necessarily just about strategy anymore, right? It's more about the frequency that is embodied by the person who is sharing the message, sharing the offer, whatever the case is. It's not that strategy is not important. That's what I want to get across very clearly here. It's not that strategy is not important. It's just that if that's the only thing that you're solely focused on, then you're going to be missing out truly on helping the people that are just not going to be able to find you if that's the sole thing that you are focused on. So to attract these dream buyers, these people who are going to pay you really, really well for your amazing services, this requires a new level of leadership within you, a new level of frequency. So we're going to dive into that in this video. So because strategy is made up of many different components, we're going to talk about offer specifically, and then the communication of that offer through some form of sales and marketing. Now, just for context with this as well, previous to what I do now, I ran a marketing agency, and we tried every method under the sun to generate clients, not only for ourselves, but for the clients we were working with as well. Video sales letters, email marketing, newsletters. There was outbound calling, cold calls. There was some form of advertising. There was content, organic content to support that. There was also outbound DM setting as well. So at one point we had 6 to 7 virtual assistants sending upwards of 10,000 DMs every 60 to 90 days across various different accounts. So safe to say that we touched on every aspect, at least to some degree, on how to generate clients. And the key thing with all of this is that they all worked in their own way. So my goal here is not to criticize other methods or tell you that something is dead, because that defeats the whole purpose of this video. Instead, this is more of an invitation to be part of what is emerging and to consider making the shift while we're still early in it as well. So if you're growing a business and you're doing things in the business to generate clients and customers for that business, then what I'm about to share with you in this video is going to help you not only embody a higher level of leadership within yourself and magnetize the right people to you who will pay you what you're worth, but also to separate yourself in the market, because this is a subtle shift that's happening right now. There's not going to be many people who will adopt this early on. So there is an opportunity here to adopt this early on, but eventually this will just become normal and will become part of really just how we all operate. So I'm excited. Let's dive in. Essentially, this is a paradigm shift. And a paradigm shift is a new way of thinking, a new way of behaving that works in alignment with human evolution. Now, human evolution develops as we raise in our levels of consciousness. And consciousness in this setting is moving from a different emotional state to another. The current and previous emotional state that the world kind of defaulted to was fear and lack and a lot of guilt and shame and just anxiety. We're moving into a higher state of frequency, a higher state of consciousness, another way to say it, which is more neutral, more peaceful, more moving toward that state of love. We'll get into how to really apply this to you in just a second, but this is important to know because this is part of this big shift that's happening. So as these shifts happen across humanity, these shifts will also affect buying decisions because it's part of human behavior. It's things that we do. So this is why this is so important to know, because this is not something that's just a new trend. It's not speculation. It's actively happening, and that's going to shift purchasing behavior as part of that as well. So in this case, the paradigm shift that's happening right now is moving from ROI-based logical offerings to more of a resonance-based frequency offerings. And we'll get into that in more detail in just a second. But firstly, I want to share with you a recent conversation I had with someone who sent me a DM with an offer, because this was how this whole thing sparked and actually caused me to deeply reflect on my own purchasing patterns and how this actually affects everything moving forward. And I felt really called to share this video with you because of this, because some of these insights were really, really helpful. So I have the messages here to the side. I just want to look and make sure that I'm referencing exactly what was said. So this gentleman was offering me lead generation systems. marketing systems, and to help me optimize my performance as an entrepreneur. So, it was a video. We had a couple of chats back and forth, and he sent over a video with this offering. And usually I just ignore these types of messages, but for some reason I felt called to kind of give him some feedback. And we had a couple of mutual friends that I had met in person as well. So I wanted to actually help him because this was a new thing that he was launching. So the feedback that I shared was this: being honest, you lost me when you said helping me become more productive and achieve optimal performance. I just don't resonate with those terms or that language. And when I hear someone's going to handle the back end like lead generation or book a lot of calls, firstly, I hear it at least 15 times a day. Secondly, I don't want to spend more time on Zoom. And thirdly, it probably involves some form of DM strategy that you're currently doing right now, or going the typical setter closer route that I don't particularly resonate with in this case, which I know is an assumption. I was just kind of making an assumption there. He didn't directly say that. So he mentioned a couple of different things, kind of, going back and forth. I'm not going to share that with you here. That's private to him. But he did ask me a question at the very end that says, if the typical noise and fluff was stripped away, what would actually make you stop and pay attention? Now, this is where it kind of gets juicy. So I shared this. I spent a lot of money on coaching, a lot of money on support. And the only time I've ever bought anything is through resonating with a message that feels like truth in my soul. I've bought programs within minutes, within hours of resonating with someone's message and content, which is why I talk so deeply about frequency, because it's the unseen part that, in my eyes, drives behavior for someone who's more intuitive like myself. But because this big shift in humanity is happening, people are accessing more of their intuition. It's not that I'm special and I only have intuition. We all do. So that's what I mentioned there. The next thing then I said was, so for me to stop and to pay attention, right, to come back to your question, I'll find the person won't find me. By reaching out with an offer, when someone reaches out, it feels very logical and offer-based, which I don't resonate with because the offer doesn't really mean much to me. I want to see that there's a certain level of leadership in somebody who embodies something that others do not. And that will come from a frequency and a message that person puts out. That's how I roll. Again, not the majority. I was just highlighting there that, this is definitely not the majority of people think this way, but that is just me. I believe that this is where online business is headed though. So that's what I shared with them. So before we kind of dissect that a little bit more, I want to share the different paradigms and go deeper into these aspects to highlight why I felt called to kind of share that with them in that time. And also what I've just noticed across many, many people who've shared this as well. So the old paradigm, like we mentioned, ROI-based, logic-first way of offering. What this kind of says is, hey, here's all the things that you get. Here's the outcome. Here's the results that was generated for this type of person. Do you want it? Especially over the last 10 years or so, that has worked very, very well. And we're not saying that it's the wrong thing to do. We're just saying that there is a shift happening. There's a place for logic and there's a place for these strategies. When all of this stuff was new, it was very common to use these types of strategies and tactics and actually go off and get results with them. But now that every single person has turned to the same books and the same offerings, the same things being taught over and over and over again, there comes a point where there has to be an evolution that's happening within humanity, and that's going to affect all of these different aspects, like we've briefly touched on there as well. So there's a place for this stuff. I'm not saying that it's obsolete, but if it's not working for you and that's the strategy you're using, then it's being called for a change. And it's not to change what you're doing, it's to change what's going on within, and we'll get into that. So the second part of this is the emerging paradigm, which is more of this resonance-based frequency offering. Someone who is more tapped into their intuition, someone who is more sensitive to the energy that someone's putting out, is going to be someone who's coming from a different state of being. Because when you are living in the survival paradigm of fear and doubt and lack and guilt and shame, and hey, there's no judgment here. Like, that's a journey for everybody. I've been in those states. When we are in those states, then we respond to urgency and scarcity and guarantees, because it gives us that feeling that it will take the fear away. It will take the lack away. But if you're trying to attract people who are living in a different state of being, right? You want people to pay you a lot of money for your amazing services and to be nice to work with, and they're dream clients, right? Let's just put it that way. They're living in a different state of being. They're living at a different frequency. They're not going to respond to that type of fear, urgency that is used in a lot of these different tactics. This new paradigm is more about feeling into who is this person. It's not necessarily about what you offer, but who you are when you are offering it. Don't worry, I know some of these things can feel a little bit abstract, so let's go a little bit deeper. It's really shifting from can you get me results to can I actually trust you energetically? And trust is built through frequency. It's built through how you move, not what you say or promise. An example of this is if you've ever watched a video from somebody and they've had all of these different things going on in the video and they're saying all of these things and they're talking, but for some reason, you still don't resonate with what they're talking about. You don't resonate with them. You feel like that there's something that is just not clicking because all they're doing is saying words, but what you feel from them is almost the opposite. Because you could say all the right things, but if the energy's off, we are trained at the deepest level to pick up those things. We are trained to pick up, and we're born with these abilities to pick up manipulation, to pick up when we are being fed lies. We are tuned in to find truth. And with this shift in humanity, we are leaning more and more into that. These things are unlocking as we develop in our levels of consciousness. They're reigniting. They're not appearing out of nowhere. They were always there, but we're able to use them now more than ever. And this is what this shift is actually affecting. It's drastically affecting business as well, because all of this is going to affect, again, purchasing decisions. The question becomes, are you an embodiment of what you talk about? That's the thing that builds the trust. It's more about resonance, frequency. It's about embodied leadership. Fully. So we're not saying that outcomes don't matter. It's not binary here. We're not talking about this is the old way and this is the new way. Yes, there's a paradigm shift. Yes, outcomes are still important, but it's not the be all and end all. It's actually the 20%. The 80% in this shift that's happening, from my understanding of where this is going, this is going to be the thing that really carries the whole thing forward. Because I know from my own purchasing behavior, like I briefly mentioned in that message, I have literally watched a couple of YouTube videos from someone and paid them thousands. I don't care about their offer. I know that this person's right for me. That's an intuitive sense. That's something that you cannot manipulate. That's something that you can't talk someone in or out of. It's just there or it's not there. And that's fine, because that means that the more you embody more of your authentic self and express that in a beautiful way, you will attract the right type of people. You will attract the right type of people who are perfect for what message you are putting out there. Your offering will resonate with the people because you are being authentic within yourself. But if it's solely based on how do I position the offer perfectly and how do I get this perfect and that perfect and that perfect, and then how do I put this onto somebody, you're not allowing that resonance to actually happen. You're not allowing those people to actually find you. Now, of course, what can happen here is you can easily fall into lack and uncertainty and fear. Because if I'm not, let's say, sending all of these different DMs, then how are people going to find me? How are people going to find my content? There's only 10 people watching my YouTube videos. Well, what if those 10 people deeply resonate with you because you're coming from that frequency? And the fact that you feel the fear and the uncertainty and the lack that comes from not putting, let's say, a message out there, that's the thing that needs to be dissolved for you to be able to rise into this new frequency that we're talking about. So in this conversation I had, right, the offer was clear. And it's not that his strategy of using a DM was wrong. That's really not what we're highlighting here. It didn't connect with anything in me because it wasn't speaking to a deeper part of myself. That's all. So the question then becomes, well, how do I actually embody this frequency? How do I actually do what we're talking about here? How do I actually start to set in motion this shift for me to take full advantage of where these things are going and to get the benefits of living this way and doing this work to be able to actually do this? Well, I have a couple of notes I want to share with you here, but the first thing that comes to mind is a quote from Albert Einstein. The significant problems that we have cannot be solved with the same level of thinking that created them. A new level of consciousness brings a new paradigm. A new paradigm is a new way of thinking. We need a new paradigm. We need a new level of consciousness to solve the problems that were created with the old level of thinking. So let's dive into how we can do that. People are craving authentic leadership, and they feel, they resonate. They don't just hear the words that you say. They don't just read the text that you say. This is because we're moving towards more of a relational type business that's not just transactional. Because when you get a message from somebody who says, hey, this is the offer. Do you want this offer? Hey, did you get my message? Hey, did you get this? You're missing the whole point of relational business. It's me working, co-creating with somebody else. I'll tell you right now, the people who I've worked with and spent thousands on, I've worked with them for years because I resonate with them. I'm happy to give them large sums of money every single time, happily, because I resonate with them. It's a connection. It's a co-creation. It's the same reason why I have clients who come back to work with me repeatedly, because I focus on optimizing for that. It's resonance. So people aren't buying just promises, words, texts, things that you say. They're buying a frequency which comes from proximity to you, which comes from you operating at a certain state of being. So if we keep going deeper on this, the frequency and the vibration actually does the heavy lifting for you. So we're going to get a little bit spiritual here. And the next thing I'm about to say, I say this with love, and I say this with zero judgment because I've been there. When your default emotional state is coming from a place of fear and lack, scarcity, or neediness, needing things to work, needing results, needing these different things, then how do you think that's going to come across in marketing or content creation or any of these different things? So how this physically manifests is fear-based marketing, hundreds of follow-ups, pressure-based sales, urgency that's unnecessary, right? And different tactics and strategies to try and get someone to do something. This is just a physical manifestation of what's going on within. It's the emotional state that you may be operating from internally that is then just showcasing in how that shows up. Or maybe it's just that's exactly how you learned how to do things because the person who taught you was teaching from that place as well. And again, this is all just coming from this shift in humanity that's happening, right? There's no judgment. None of this is wrong. We're just saying that, hey, there's a new way. There's a way that this can be lighter. There's a way that you can actually bring clients to you. There's a way that you can actually show up from a different place and not only live an amazing life because of that, but get better results and work with people who are actually going to really value you, your services, because you're coming from a different state as well. Now let's look at this through the lens of your dream client, someone who's great to work with, someone who's amazing, someone who pays you everything and more because they love you, they love what you do, they love your service, they love everything about what you do. And it's a great relationship. It's a co-creation. It's exciting. It's fun, and you're getting amazing results. They take full responsibility, and everything is incredible. It's a co-creation between the both of you. They're living in a different emotional state because a person who's like that, who's a dream to work with, does not live in a low emotional state of survival. They live in a different state. It's not better or worse. They just live in a different state. And a great example of this is there's a reason why business class exists. There's a reason why VIP lounges exist. There's like this place where people want to be instead of where the masses are. And again, there's no judgment about any of this. It's just that these things exist for a reason. So it would make sense if you wanted to attract people who are in a more abundant state, a more abundant mindset, but they still had problems to solve, right? Because abundance comes from within at the end of the day. It's not a number in your bank account, it's a state of being. If you want to work with those types of people, it would make sense for you to emanate that same frequency as well. And when you do, by universal law, you have to connect with each other and to fully embody that frequency. It's not just about what you've done. It's not just about your experience, because all of those things are outside of yourself. Yes, you played a part in it, but internally, those things aren't you. They're just things that you experienced. And if your self-worth, your confidence levels, your certainty levels, and all of these different aspects that create this frequency are attached to something outside of you, it's not sustainable. It can be taken away at any moment. And that's why it feels fragile, because it's attached to the ego. It's not coming from true power within. That's all an internal journey. So if you're feeling this shift, if something is clicking for you here, and you want to build your business from this place of resonance, then I invite you to stick around. This is what I talk about. It's the journey that I'm on, and this is what I talk about on this channel. Thank you for sticking with me to the end of this video. I will see you in the next one. Have a beautiful day.